All right, today we're tackling a huge moment in history, the Congress of Vienna. We're going to figure out how a handful of leaders tried to piece an entire continent back together.
Seriously, just think about that question for a second. Europe had been torn apart by years and years of nonstop war. So, how do you even begin to fix that? That was the giant problem facing Europe's leaders back in 1814.
You see, for more than a decade, Napoleon Bonaparte and his armies had pretty much run wild. They'd marched all over Europe, knocking kings off their thrones and completely redrawing the map. So by the time Napoleon was finally beaten, the continent was just a total mess. The old rules were out the window, and everyone knew they needed a new plan, and fast, if they wanted to build a peace that would actually last.
So in the fall of 1814, they all got together in Vienna, Austria for this massive meeting. And while lots of countries showed up, the real decisions, the big ones, were going to be made by the 5 most powerful nations in the room, the heavy hitters. So let's meet the main players. First, you've got Prince Metternich of Austria. He was the host and really the mastermind behind the whole thing. Then there's Tsar Alexander I from Russia, Lord Castlereagh representing Great Britain, and King Frederick William III from Prussia. Now here's the wild part. Even France, the country that had just lost the war, got a seat at the table. They were represented by this incredibly slick negotiator named Talleyrand. The guy running the show, Metternich, had one very strong belief. He was a conservative, which back then meant he was convinced that the best way to keep things stable and avoid another bloody mess, like the French Revolution, was to go back to the way things were. For him, that meant bringing back strong kings and the old royal families.
And that conservative idea shaped everything they did. The leaders came up with a master plan that was basically built on 2 huge ideas. Let's break them down.
First, there was the principle of legitimacy. It sounds complicated, but it's pretty simple. It just meant that all the royal families that Napoleon had kicked out of power were the legitimate or rightful rulers, and they should be put back on their thrones. So, just like that, the Bourbon kings were back in charge in France and Spain. The idea was that these old-school royal families would be way more stable than some new revolutionary government. The second big idea was all about creating a balance of power. The goal here was to make sure that no single country could get so strong that it could just bully everyone else and try to take over the continent, like France had just done. It was all about making sure the major powers were kept on a roughly equal playing field.
Okay, so with those 2 big ideas, legitimacy and balance of power, the fixers rolled up their sleeves and got to work. And that meant literally pulling out a map of Europe and starting to draw new borders, making sure to reward the countries that had helped defeat Napoleon.
So here's how the prizes were handed out. Russia got a huge piece of Poland. Prussia got some really valuable territory along the Rhine River. Austria was given control over parts of northern Italy. And Great Britain, which was all about its navy, snagged some key islands in the Mediterranean like Malta.
Now, to make sure France couldn't cause trouble again, they decided to surround it with stronger countries. It was kind of like they were building a containment fence. To the north, they mashed the Netherlands and Belgium together to create one stronger kingdom. To the east, they gave Prussia that land on the Rhine to act as a barrier. And to the south, they boosted Austria's power in Italy.
But here's something really important they didn't do. They didn't create the unified countries of Germany and Italy that exist today. Nope, they left those areas as a messy patchwork of dozens of small, separate states. And why would they do that? Well, a divided Germany and Italy were weak, which meant they weren't a threat to the balance of power.
So the big question is, did it all work? Well, yes and no. In some ways, the Congress of Vienna was a massive success, but in other ways, it created a whole new set of giant problems that would eventually explode. Let's start with the success. The single biggest thing the Congress achieved was preventing another huge continent-wide war between the major powers for almost 100 years. That period of relative peace lasted all the way until World War I broke out in 1914. That's a huge deal. But here's the massive, fatal flaw in their plan. In all their meetings and map drawing, the leaders never, not once, bothered to ask the actual people who lived in these places what they wanted. All of a sudden, Belgians were being ruled by the Dutch, Poles were being ruled by Russians, and Italians were being ruled by Austrians, and nobody asked for their opinion. This completely ignored a powerful new force that was bubbling up all over Europe: nationalism. This is the simple but powerful belief that people who share a language, a culture, and a history should get to have their own country.
The old kings and princes at Vienna totally underestimated how strong this feeling was about to become.
So you ended up with this massive clash of ideas. On one side, you had the Congress, which wanted peace by keeping the old empires and powerful kings in charge. And on the other side, you had the people, who increasingly wanted freedom and their own independent nations. These two ideas were on a total collision course.
And the kings knew these new ideas were dangerous to their power, so they cracked down hard. They started censoring books and newspapers. They used secret police to spy on their own people and watch for any signs of protest. And they fought against another new idea called liberalism, which is the belief that people should have individual rights, like freedom of speech, and that governments should be limited by constitutions.
So what you get is a really interesting paradox. The Congress of Vienna did manage to create a long peace between nations, but by ignoring what the people actually wanted, it lit a fire of protest, rebellion, and revolution within those nations for decades to come. And that leaves us with the really big question to chew on. The Congress of Vienna got its long-term stability, but it came at the price of people's freedom and their right to decide their own future. So you have to ask yourself, is that a price worth paying?